Alright guys, so we got this shorty in. I've been occasionally charging the batteries up for the past couple weeks. Just like 60 minutes here, 60 minutes there. So, first thing we're gonna do, get this thing vacuumed out, get all the dirt and crud and all that stuff. I'm gonna see if she fires up now on her own. That'll tell us if these batteries are good. I doubt they are, but we're gonna try it. I wanna get all this stuff vacuumed out, get it all cleaned up, because the plan is anything on this truck is for sale. Everything. Other than the motor and a couple of little odds and ends here, but mainly the cab. If anyone's interested in the bed, the frame, like stuff like that. I understand it's a purpose-built truck. I've actually been, now that I've seen this one, I've seen a ton of these on Marketplace. So there's that. But we're gonna do that. I don't know if which tanks we're gonna be reusing, because he would like to use this truck on like using waste oil and whatnot. So pretty much we're gonna be taking this motor and putting it in a 2012 and converting a gas Dodge to a diesel, and then I can't remember which transmission he said we're gonna be putting behind it, because it's been a couple weeks. But we have a list, so we're gonna get this shut off, and let's see if she starts. Well, she's got voltage. Oh, the batteries are good. All right. So I've been charging it, like I said, for the past couple weeks. But this motor, 3,084 idle hours, or running hours, I guess. But she runs really good, just idles really high. So the goal with this truck is around 350 reliable horsepower. Nothing like, we're not trying to, we don't want peak horsepower, because this truck, with the parts and everything we put on this thing, we should be able to make 500 horsepower. But for towing, we're going to have it be like 350. You don't want high EGTs. You don't want to have to fight coolant temps. You don't want any of that. So we're going to build this engine to where it can reliably do 350 horsepower. I don't remember if we're going to do exhaust brake or whatnot, but highly recommend building the head. We're going to do head studs, valve springs, push rods, the whole 9 yards up there. We're going to modify the pump, change out the fuel plate, change out a couple little odds and ends in there. But again, we don't want to go super crazy to where we dump too much fuel to any turbo that we put on this thing is going to be overpowering. We're also going to be ditching the stock turbo, because that is not going to do 350 horsepower reliably. So let's get this thing cleaned up, and see what we're working with a base coat here, because everything in the front's going to have to come out. We're going to have to drain the fluids, coolant, all that stuff. All right, here's where we're at. We're getting the coolant drained. Got the batteries out. I wanted to make sure that they were good and charged up. We're getting there. Trans cooler's going to come at some point. We got to drain that. Hopefully we're not. Yeah, it's like splattering everywhere, so I'll have to clean that. But I want to get this motor out first, and then we'll push this back. Not sure if we'll just leave the trans in place or if we'll pull everything at once. I don't know yet. But once this thing's pretty much out, then we can start assessing what's good, what's not. We're going to pull everything off the side. Probably going to end up re-gasketing this thing. There's a lot of things in this thing, in this truck, that aren't exactly needed. We got some aftermarket, actually, believe it or not. Okay, so let me see here. There was a transmission, so there is a temp gauge for the trans, and I don't see anything for the oil pressure for some reason. So I'm wondering if, I believe this aftermarket sensor here, I believe what that does is forces the engine to shut off if you lose oil pressure, I'm assuming, because it looks like it goes into the cab. You can see it goes right there. Also, they routed the block heater. You guys will see, block heater gets routed the whole way back through. It goes down there, and they routed it to go here. So it plugs in here, which, it's weird. They gave them a plug. Yeah, they gave them a plug here. 12 volt receptacle. So, I don't know. But a lot of this stuff is good. We're going to get a lot of it pulled out and checked. There was a bolt missing for this battery tray, and this one was loose for some reason. But all the other stuff, like Any of the cables, we're gonna leave that. But mind you, any of the wiring on this engine is 99% not gonna be used. We're gonna be trying to reuse all of the wiring for the Dodge that it's going in. That's how you make these swaps as nice as possible. So we're gonna try to use the factory ECU, factory everything, and get this motor to work. Obviously you'll have check engine lights for things like the fuel injectors and stuff like that. But to get everything to work, the tachometer, the fuel gauge, the volt gauge, like everything that's on the dash, you want to use all the factory stuff. All right, we're getting her out. So probably gonna have this motor out today. Realistically, I'm gonna just we'll probably just end up pulling the engine, because the more it makes sense to me. This whole chassis, I don't know if we're gonna sell the trans or whatnot, but this whole chassis, I could just pull this, and any of the parts that are back here, I can just take the truck out and let it go, because all we need out of this thing is literally the motor. Everything else is, if someone's interested in it, someone's supposed to be interested in the cab. There is not a speck of rust on this truck anywhere, so if somebody wants a clean single cab, I would do that now, because someone will buy it. I have no problem selling cabs. This frame is going to be a different story. I don't know if I could sell this frame. I don't know if anyone will be interested in it, but all we got left, 2 bolts, couple of wiring, probably undo the AC lines, because this was already cut. There was no AC condenser. They did not want these guys having AC. Look at that, the wall. No AC. There were a couple of things taken out as well. Let's see, I think the radio was. Yeah, no radio. They did not want these guys enjoying their time. No radio, no AC. Get fucked. All right, so I went through, pulled the transmission lines off the side, unbolted them from the transmission, and then also undid them from up here. That way, because pretty much if you don't realize how transmission lines go, there's 2 on the transmission. One comes up to the cooler, then goes back, comes over to the other cooler, and then from the back side of the cooler goes back into the transmission. So that's kind of the whole loop. Kind of a bad way of explaining it, but that was the best I could do with what I got. So unscrewed both of them there, and that way once the engine's out, I can take the transmission lines out in general. That way it's not leaking anywhere. I also took both the clips, because these also clip up to the bottom. So we got that done. A lot of the stuff is unhooked. The battery trays I got out of the way. Some stuff I didn't need to do. Usually I take these bumpers off, but with the way that this hitch is on here, taking that bumper off is going to be an absolute nightmare. So I ended up just opting not to take it off, just getting room down in there. Usually I take the bumper off before I take any of the coolers off and all that, but that's just how I decided to do it this time. Exhaust is dropped, and if you guys don't know, this is how they did it on the Shorty. So they pretty much cut everything, moved the catalytic converter up, moved the muffler up. You can see there, they made some cuts, and that's kind of how they do that. You can see right there. And then cab mount here. You can see this cab is super clean. Super, super clean. And yes, 12 valves do come with mufflers. They do come with catalytic converters. So for the guys saying, oh, my old diesel never came with any of that, you probably bought it when somebody else took it off. But yeah, most diesels come with them. And 12 valves in California even came with EGR valves. So check that out. But all I got to do pretty much at this point, I've already got one of the 16mm torque converter bolts out. We've got all of the bell housing bolts. I pulled this off the oil pressure sending unit, or the sensor thing that shuts the engine off if there's low oil pressure, and then I just capped it. And I did leave the adapter in there just in case he wants to run something like an oil pressure gauge or something, which I always recommend. But like I was saying, this whole setup's going to come off. I'm going to leave it on while we're pulling the motor, but this turbo and everything else is coming off. And this is, it's an HX35, okay. So it's the better one, but still, let's keep going at it and see how far we can get, because like I was saying, I'd like to have this out today. We're gonna start pulling this motor out. Start getting her up out of the air. She's ready. We got the motor mounts. AC line I had to pull off to get to that bolt there. I wish they just put them both forward, to be honest, but they never do. So once we get it off, I can already see some oil leaks. That oil pan, that front case here, definitely leaking right around there. Front main, so definitely gonna pull the cam, do all that. A lot of upgrades on this motor is what I'm assuming, just to keep it reliable, like valve springs, push rods, retainers, you know, the whole 9 yards. I don't know if we're head studying it or not, because we're only going for 350, but for ultimate reliability, maybe throw a set of exotics in there. I don't know yet what we're gonna do, so we're gonna go back and forth with that. Pretty much main goal, once we get this out, I'd like to get this backed out, so if you guys see anything you want, I think that's the plan of attack, is gonna be parting this thing out. Once this is all out, then we're gonna bring the other truck down and get the Hemi out of that. So wait till you guys see what we're throwing the motor in. And then we got to figure out a transmission, transfer case, the whole 9 yards. But newer truck with the reliability of the older engine. All right, we got the motor out. Got my wife helping me. She recently quit her part-time job to come do this full-time. So we're going to be moving this up to the hill. We got to bring the other one in. This one's dripping a little bit of fluids, but it's just a parts truck, so it's not a big deal. Need to get it out of here because I don't want it dripping on my floor for long term. So there's the motor, there's the truck. We're gonna use the Dakota, pull it up, and then we're gonna bring the next two in, and we'll go from there. I know it's not recommended to do it this way, but we're gonna do it this way. Put it around the ball. All right, so we're gonna go clean the shop real quick. I'm gonna leave this chain up here, but it works. Dakota pulls it, no problem. We got a bunch of parts. That must have fell. Hazel basil. So if you guys need stuff, we've already got someone talking about the cab. I'm not sure 100% on prices, but I can't have this thing here for too long because I'm just out of room. I've got 3 trucks in that hole, 2 trucks over there. I got to get stuff done, and I'm waiting on parts for a lot of stuff. And then we got 1 more coming back over on the hill, and then I got 2 more coming in next week. So just, yeah, I'm gonna have her just park this here for a minute. All right, so here's where that motor's gonna sit until we start tearing into it. I know I told you guys in the beginning what we're gonna do, but pretty much the whole front's leaking. There's a lot of leaks on it. The turbo needs to come off. The AC line needs to come off. The whole AC needs to come off because we're probably gonna end up using the AC compressor for the 2012. Not sure if we're gonna use all the Hemi stuff in the other truck and or convert it all to diesel. I don't know yet 100%, but this turbo is not gonna do what we need it to do. It's already starting off with a P pump, so that's great. Intake horn, I don't think we're gonna mess with a lot of that stuff. So we're gonna have another video here on the Dakota. We gotta fix this squeak, but that'll be another video. We got a whole bunch of parts for the Dakota. That's good. So with that being said, let me know if you guys have any suggestions for what you'd want to see. The whole goal of this thing is 350 towing horsepower, not just 350 peak. So realistically, the truck should be able to make 450, but we turn it down to 350. So a turbo that's going to do the job, the fueling setup that's going to do the job. Let me know what you guys think. Give me some suggestions down below. We're not going to be revving this thing out to 4,000. We're going to try to, you know, be mindful of fuel economy as well. So 3K governor springs instead of 4Ks, and block off the vacuum pump, stuff like that. We'll see. And then probably swap the starter out as well for whichever one is going to be in that truck. But we'll see. We will definitely see. While this thing's off, obviously pump the timing, tap it cover. You definitely want to do that while it's outside of the truck. So